Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another discussion video. Today we're going over more new cards. We're going to take a look at the SS3 Bardock Masked Saiyan Reboot structure deck coming out in set 14. Awesome stuff, considering so many people were huge fans of SS3 Bardock Masked Saiyan in set 3 with that structure deck, and it's a rainbow deck no less. Now, rainbow hasn't really done much in the grand scheme of the Dragon Ball competitive landscape, but we'll see if this time around it can go the mile with SS3 Bardock Reboot. That being said, guys, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. And if you guys want to help support the channel, there are many ways down in the description to do so, but particularly, guys, if you want custom sleeves, playmats, anything like that, I know a lot of you guys might want your S3 Bardock Masked Saiyan sleeves with this deck. You might want to check out your playmat down in the description. With that, you'll get 10% off your order. The stuff they make is super high quality. It's right under there, right under Dragon Shield in quality, and Dragon Shield is the best regular sleeve in the industry, in my opinion. So being an art sleeve that comes right next to that is absolutely incredible. Again, 10% off your order with your playmat. Stuff's incredible. That being said, let's get on to the cards. All right, obviously we'll start with the leaders. So we have Masked Saiyan on the unawakened side. Activate main once per turn, burst 3, add up to 1 card from life to hand, and if a black card is placed in your drop area by this skill, this card gains crit. If a non-black card is placed in your drop area by this skill, this card gets plus 5,000 power for the turn. So very reminiscent of the original Masked Saiyan leader. Pretty nice that they just have burst 3 on it now, because burst wasn't actually a keyword back then, so you had a whole lot of text just to say put the top 3 cards deck in your drop area. It's got the same thing where it gains either crit or power depending on what you mill, and ideally you'll be getting both each time you mill if your deck is built properly. And it's nice that it self-awakens, because one of the problems with Masked Saiyan back then is that he could not self-awaken. So if you were on your unawakened side for too long, you just would really lose a lot of card advantage, and you probably lose the game due to that. So the awaken, when it lays 4 or less, draw a card and tap an energy, and then on the back side, when this card attacks, draw 1, auto once per turn, add a card from your life to your hand. When you remove a marker from one of your black Unison cards using a Spirit Boost skill, switch this card to active mode and negate its keyword skills for the turn. So you do actually get another attack with this. You do lose keywords, but you do get your draw once again, which is actually kind of insane, and this can just be the last attack you need to push that final damage, which is really awesome. Definitely something that the old leader did not have. Activate main once per turn, burst 3, same thing. If you burst a black card, you gain critical. If you burst a non-black card, you get plus 5,000 power. And one of the best plays you could do with the old leader was make sure you use your activate main on your unawakened side and then flip and then use your activate main again. This way, any power you gain from your unawakened side would follow you over to your awakened side. You could be swinging for a 25k critical, and then ideally use your auto to get another life, use a Spirit Boost, switch back to active mode, and then swing once again for a 25 single that ideally will end the game. So anyways, let's look at some of the main deck stuff going on here. We have the Unison for the deck, Dark Mask King Spirit Resonance. We have an X cost Unison auto for leaders, a black Saiyan only card, so notice you cannot use this in Vegex if that's even going to be legal by the time this comes out. When this card is placed from your drop area from your deck by one of your skills, if you don't have a Unison card in play, you may play this card with a marker on it. Auto once per turn, when you remove a marker from this card using a Spirit Boost skill, your opponent chooses one of their battle cards with energy cost of 1 or less and sends it to the owner's warp. Pretty awesome there, where you just have like inherent removal for things like Black Masked Saiyan or just any other pesky 1-drops your opponent might have. Activate main plus 2. If your leader is a black Saiyan card, you choose 1 card in your hand and discard it. This card gets plus 4,000 power for a turn for each color in your energy. Again, promoting you to play that rainbow color strategy, and it does gain more than 1 marker per turn, so it's nice for Spirit Boost, and it's nice in terms of, you know, it's tough for your opponent to clear it from the board because it will be full of markers. Next up, we have Dark Broly Spirit Boost Berserker. We talked about this card in a video the other day. So the main thing here is limit 1 Spirit Boost 1 for 1 energy. If you have 3 or more energy, you send a red, blue, green, and yellow card from your drop to your warp. You play this card from your drop or warp, and it gains critical for the turn. Now, I'm not sure if you can pay this thing at its own cost to then play it. If you could, that would be kind of insane, because you got to warp a red card anyway, and then you could play this from the warp. So if you can use this at its own cost, that's kind of insane. Let's read the rest of the card though. It is unique, permanent. This card's also treated as black in all areas. Auto, when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, gets minus 15,000 power for the turn. In the scheme of this deck, I do think this is a solid card. I don't really think Dark Broly itself will be playing this. Yes, you can play it off Parasitic Dragon Ball, and if like Umbrella Destruction were to be banned, you could play this off the ball and go into your Heartfelt Plea play. That's just an option in case that happens, but realistically, I think this will be mainly used in this deck if you do choose to play the rainbow color build. Next up, we have Masked Saiyan Spirit Boost Enigma. We have a 5-drop, 15k, unique dual attack Activate main, limit 1, Spirit Boost 1 for 1 energy of any color. If your leader card's a Mass Saiyan or Bardock Xeno card and you discard this card from your hand, your opponent may choose one card in the life, place it at the bottom of their deck. If they don't, play this card from your drop area. So this is super interesting. Firstly, it's a very fair card in my opinion because it's not free like many other cards you expect this to be free. You have to have Unison in play to Spirit Boost it, and you got to pay energy. So I think that's pretty decent there. And then your opponent basically says, okay, I'll crit a life, or you get 2 15k attacks. Now, I think a lot of people will look at this and say you should never crit the life. You should always let this thing come into play. I don't necessarily agree with that because let's just say you're really low on defenses. Like maybe it's a really simplified game state. You're just defending with 5ks, and they're really low on hand size as well. If they activate this and you just like bottom deck one of your life, that's 2 attacks you don't have to deal with. So in some cases, I can kind of see this being the correct play to actually crit the life. But of course, it will be a case by case. I just don't want people to think like, oh, you always let this thing come into play, you never crit a life. That can definitely be the right play in certain scenarios. Next up, we have Black Mass Saiyan Spirit Boost Minion. We have a 1-drop with a permanent. If your leader is a Mass Saiyan or Bardock Xeno, treat this card in your hand as if it had no specified cost. Auto once per turn, add a card from life to hand. This card attacks, gets plus 11,000 power for the turn. Activate main once per turn, Spirit Boost 1, switch this card to active mode. So essentially a dual attacking 15k that can take 1 life. Not bad. You could play it for any color energy as long as your leader is the Reboot Mass Saiyan, which is nice. And this does lend to the theme of the rainbow color deck. What's really nice though is like you don't really have to play the rainbow color deck. Like some of the powerful cards in this strategy do revolve around the rainbow, but this in particular, this strategy is not forcing you to play the rainbow stuff, which I think is pretty cool. Then we have some of the nice reprints coming out in the structure deck. We're getting an SS3 Tag Team Trunks reprint, which really is a great overwhelm. It's definitely a bit outclassed by things like Bardock fighting against Fates and maybe like Man on a Mission, but if you're playing maybe like a Spring Kai of Time or even a Vegex, like something where you just want low to the ground constant overwhelms, this is a great one that can double strike crit, so I really do like it. It is a good reprint, plus it was a draft box 1 DPR, so it is pretty nice that it's getting a reprint and should see some dropping in price if it's relatively expensive right now. Yamcha Merciless Barrage, I don't think it's the most expensive card by any means, but definitely not a bad reprint, I guess. It's just a little weird to print it in a structure deck where you can't actually like play it because your Unison's black, but still a decent reprint to get to the players. That's kind of nice. And then finally, I did want to talk about Dark Mask King Spirit Boost Sovereign because this is a card coming out in the tournament pack for set 13, and it is relatively meant to be played in this rainbow color deck, but it is also playable in other things. But I'll mention one of the things I'm excited for in a second with this. But anyways, it's a 6-drop counter attack, Spirit Boost 1. So again, you do need a Unison. Negate the attack, play this card, and your opponent can only attack with battle cards 1 more time for the turn. So it's essentially like a better Nimbus, but it's also really nice that it's a battle card negate that does not get stopped by counter plays because all of that effect text is in the counter attack skill. So normally with something like Topo, if you like Denial of Hope it, for example, you could stop their floodgate effect from going off against you, but this does not work like that. The only thing that will stop this is a counter. Then you have permanent. If your leader card is a Saiyan card, treat this card in your hand as if it had no specified cost. So in Mass Saiyan, you can essentially make it so that you can pay any color for it. And then permanent for each color among monocolor cards in your drop area and war, produce energy cost this card in your hand by 1. So with that in mind, with the rainbow color deck, if you have all 5 different colors in your drop, this can be a 1-drop. The one problem is there are a few cards like that Dark Broly that we read that count as other colors, and I believe via the rulings they're not considered monocolor cards, so that's pretty counterintuitive when it comes into this card. But a deck that I'm actually really excited about for this card in particular is actually U7 Frieza. You guys may have seen from previous iterations of the channel that I've always been looking at like tricolor U7 Frieza, once in a while rainbow U7 Frieza with like Goku Strength of Legends. This is a really cool card to play in that deck because you can play rainbow in that strategy pretty easily. But anyways, guys, with that in mind, that's what I want to talk about in today's video, all the cool cards coming out for Mass Saiyan Reboot. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.